Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the amazing Springbok career of 2009 Tri-Nations champion Odwa Ndungane. Odwa, welcome to Front Row Rugby.
Thanks a lot, Peter. It's really nice to come and join you and have a chat. Yeah, no, nice to meet you as well.
Likewise. Odwa, let's begin in 2008 when you made your Springbok debut against Italy at Newlands. Talk to me about that occasion.
Well, that's always a special moment for anyone. And I can remember it was one of those incoming tour, and we played two tests against Wales, and Italy was the third and the last test in Cape Town. So when I got called up into the squad, I was quite excited, being a part of the setup and obviously waiting for the chance to play. And I didn't play the first two tests against Wales. And then when I got news that I'll be starting against Italy in Cape Town and also making my debut, so you can imagine the excitement, sharing the news with my family as well. So, it's something that you work so hard for and you look so forward to it. And when you finally realize that it's like a couple of days away, so it's a really special moment. And obviously to share it with my wife, who was my girlfriend then, it was also quite special. So I can still remember that day. It was wet and cold in Cape Town. And it was very special moment to make your debut for the Boks.
Wet and cold, as you say. I was actually there, so I remember it being... Odwa, let's move on to the Tri-Nations. Playing against New Zealand, the All Blacks, in their own country. You played in that first match in Wellington. Tell us, what is it like for those of us who will never understand or experience it? What is it like facing the haka?
I think, Peter, let me start off by, I think every South African understands the rivalry between the Boks and the All Blacks. And being a rugby fan growing up, you watch those games and you see the intensity and you see the atmosphere in the stadiums, either in South Africa or in New Zealand, the pace at which the game is played at, and also just the build-up to those games. It's something that us South Africans, and I think as well as New Zealand public, they look forward to those games. And having watched the haka a few times, it was something that you can't really prepare for because you don't know how you're going to feel when you actually face it. And playing New Zealand in New Zealand, for us South Africans, we know it's quite tough because we haven't done well in the past there. So playing in that first game, we spoke about it the whole week. And the one thing that is quite important whenever we speak about playing the New Zealand guys is that it's going to be hard. You gotta, from minute one, you gotta take the game to them. You can't for one sec relax or switch off because that's the time that you get punished. So facing them in Wellington was quite special. Facing the haka for the first time, something that you've always seen on TV or from the stands, but now you're standing right in the middle. And, at the time, obviously, you try and not get overwhelmed by the occasion, but it's too special not to be present. And it's one of those that not many Springboks have had the chance to face. The many guys who've never played the All Blacks in New Zealand. So you count yourself as one of the lucky few to have done that. And fortunately, I've done it twice in New Zealand. I lost one, I won one, which makes it even more special. So, and the game against the All Blacks in Wellington, we didn't do so well. We lost that game quite badly. So, but to your question, facing the haka is, it's something that it's so hard to put into words. But it's a special occasion for any Springbok player to stand up and front up to the haka because we know the history behind it. history behind those two teams. So to be one of the few to have done it is really a special thing for me.
We're going to talk about the one that you won against them a little bit later. But just before we get to that, a few weeks after that test match in Wellington, we thrashed Australia at Ellis Park and you scored your first try for the Springboks. Tell us what that felt like.
Oh, funny enough, as we're talking, you actually taking me back because it's been so long ago, 2008. And yeah, I remember that game as well. Tongi Norquist scored 4 tries. Uh, it was such a nice game to be a part of because I think you do get those games where everything just clicks and everyone from 1 to 2, I think it was back in those days, just takes their game to the next level. And the Australian team that we played against was actually quite a very good Australian side with a lot of household names at the time. So to beat them that well, that convincingly was a whole team effort. And I did, like you say, I scored my first try in that game. So everything worked out in that game. The whole team played well. Doing it at Ellis Park was also nice. And in the Tri Nations, it was hard to play and to beat a team by, I think it was 60 points, if I'm not mistaken. It's not something that you do quite often. And to do it at home was really nice. And yeah, but just like I said, everyone just played well. Fourie controlled the game nicely. Butch was playing well. Our forward pack dominated. Yeah, no, it was quite a nice game to be a part of. And Jongi making history, I think, scoring 4 tries against Australia. I think the other guy was Tondorai, but against the Tier 2 team. But Jongi, I think that record still stands, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, no, it was nice to be a part of that.
And very nice to watch as well, let me tell you. Okay, so let's move on then to 2009. We beat the British and Irish Lions, and I know that you missed out on the first 2 tests and you only got to play in the third one, which unfortunately we lost. But then we moved on to the Tri Nations. You didn't play in the home games, but you played on the away leg. And it all came down to that one match in Hamilton against the All Blacks. That's the one that we won to win the Tri Nations. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so that year 2009 was a special one. I think, as you've mentioned, that we won the Lions series once again. Another special occasion where we've spoken about it earlier on, where many Springboks, many players have worn the jersey of the Springboks, but never got to play against the Lions in their home ground. So for me to be a part of it was really special. And going to the Tri Nations, we did quite well in the home leg. And when we boarded the plane, we knew that we needed to go to Australia and win the game and don't have to go to New Zealand and do the job, because by the time we get to New Zealand, we wanted the job to be done, because you never know what will happen against the All Blacks. But we slipped up against Australia, which meant now we had no choice but to go win in New Zealand. And I remember after the game, Coach Peter de Villiers at the time came in and said, well, it didn't go according to plan, but now we don't have a choice but to go down to Hamilton and beat New Zealand in their background, something that we don't do quite often. So fortunately, I think we had done it in 2008 with the same group, won in New Zealand. So it's something that we felt it was possible. We had the belief in the squad and in the team, which obviously was important going into that crucial game. And we went down to Hamilton, and I think the belief was just so strong within the whole group. Even getting to New Zealand, the vibe in the bus, in the hotel, was so positive, because I think we felt it, that this was our time to beat again New Zealand and obviously win the Tri Nations. So got to the game. It was nice and cold as always in New Zealand. And I remember when we were warming up, I don't know if they knew what they were doing. They actually in this on the speakers started playing Impi. So we actually got into the huddle, and John said something along the lines of, this is it. You can even hear that it feels like we are home. They are playing our song. So, and I think that just fired up the guys even much more. And yeah, no, came the game. We knew we had to man up, and I think we did. So to come off and get the win in New Zealand and win the Tri Nations that side was, something that you put in that memory bank and lives with you for the rest of your life, and you talk about it for lifetime because not a lot of teams go down there and win the Tri Nations on top of that. So that's quite a special one.
Very special indeed. So, Odwa, after that Tri Nations, you only played one test match in 2010 and then another one in 2011 before the World Cup. I can't remember exactly what was going on there. Was it because of injury or was it maybe just the coach selecting other players? What was going on there?
Well, Peter, sometimes in life, it's all about timing. And I think I was at a time where we had two of the best wingers playing ahead of me at the time. A guy that most people know, Bryan Habana, who got over 100 test caps, and the other wing, JP Pietersen. So I was always trying to fight to get into the team. But, when you are behind those two world-class players, it's always going to be very difficult. So, yeah, I didn't get to play a lot of test caps. But, people have always asked me, do you have any regrets or anything you wish you could change? And I always say, I don't. Obviously, it would have been nice to play more test caps. I mean, it's a no-brainer. But I got I got out what I wanted, from my career, and got the opportunity to play for the Springboks, which was something that was always my goal from the beginning. Got to play against the Lions, got to play against the All Blacks twice in New Zealand, got to win the Tri Nations, got to play in the World Cup. So I'm quite content with what I got out of playing for the Boks. So yeah, no, I played not enough, but I'm quite happy with how it all worked out.
And I think any South African rugby player would take that in a heartbeat if that was offered to them. So let's talk about that 2011 Rugby World Cup before the time, on our way to the tournament. How confident were you that we could win it?
I think we always knew we had the team. We knew that we had a very good management group, one that always provided us with good plans going into each and every game. And obviously, uh, guys that have been at the World Cup, guys that have won the World Cup, and that makes a huge, well, it plays a big part to any team to have that kind of experience within your group going to the World Cup. So I think we felt quite confident, and going into play it in New Zealand, a country that we were so familiar with, and conditions which we all knew because we've played there many times. So a lot of the boxes were ticked according to what we were looking at and the plan that we had. And you know, we played games in the pool rounds, and we played quite nicely. We won the games, and in the quarterfinals, many people have spoken about it, and I don't need to go over it again. But disappointing to lose out against Australia in the quarters. But to your question, yeah, we felt confident. We felt like we really had a chance. We knew obviously it was not going to be easy. New Zealand at home were definitely the favorites, and the pool that we were in, we were happy with. And I think like I said, all the things that we looked at were out of our control. We were comfortable with, and so I mean, yeah, no, we were comfortable and confident that we had a chance, definitely.
You mentioned that quarterfinal against Australia. I have to ask you about that. And I know that you didn't actually play in it, but sitting, watching it, and we all know what was going on and the grievances that we had as South Africans in that match. I'd love to know what was going through your mind while you were watching it.
Well, I think it was intense. It was intense because it was back and forth. Opportunities we've had, which at some we felt we could have converted, and it's disappointing to have lost the way we lost because our the one thing that we've always spoken about is to try and take the referee out of the equation. As a team, we have to do what is required, do what is within our control. There are a lot of things that we can never be able to control, and conditions, and the referee is one of them. So to lose out in the way that we lost, we spoke about it in the changing rooms, and it was you could feel the disappointment, the frustration, the sadness in that dressing room. So it was quite tough to take because we possibly felt that we did do enough to maybe get the result, but it didn't work out as we would have wanted. And being sitting in the stands, I felt as much frustrated as I'm sure most of us in the stands, the playing squad, as the players on the field, because we were all one group and we win together, we lose together. So there was a lot of frustration, and yeah, no, disappointed that we couldn't progress beyond the quarterfinals.
And I think most South Africans were equally disappointed and even angry, I think is a fair way to describe the emotions back home. So I've got to ask you, Odwa, you spoke earlier about regrets or not having any regrets, but there is one thing that I have to ask you. How disappointed are you that you never got the chance to play a test match alongside your brother?
Well, now that one, very much. I won't lie, very, very much. But Peter, it's something that we both, and when I say both, I obviously mean our family as well, really wish it could have happened, but we've accepted the fact that it never did. And I think, looking back at 2007, 2006, when he made his debut under Jake White, I do think that, I did play well enough to possibly get a look into the Springbok setup. And that would have been obviously very special for us to play together, stand side by side, because we it's not easy to get to that level. It takes a lot of sacrifice, it takes a lot of hard work, and I do believe that there possibly could have been an opportunity for us to play together, but it never did. So yeah, no, very disappointed that it never happened. But sometimes things in life don't work out like how you want them to. And selection is one thing that is out of our control. So we can't really dwell too much on that because we believe that we did everything that we could, which was in our control to possibly get a look in, to get to be on the field together. So yeah, disappointed, but it's one of those things that you gotta just accept and move on.
Indeed. So, Odwa, you mentioned there that Akona obviously played under Jake White. You played under Peter de Villiers. Every Springbok that I've had on my show previously, I've asked this question of them regarding the coaches that they played under. Can you tell us what your thoughts were of Peter de Villiers as a coach, the way that you experienced him?
I must say, um, I did quite enjoy Peter de Villiers. I enjoyed. Um, he's actually quite a funny guy. He's got quite a personality about him, and you know, I also take my hat off for him because he was under huge pressure coming into the job, where I think being at the top, playing for the Springboks, coaching the Springboks, pressure from the fans, pressure from the media is part and parcel of the job. And where I say I take my hat off is how he handled everything. And you could never tell within the squad that he was um, not enjoying his job because of the pressure that he was under. Every single time we would come across him in the changing rooms, in the hotel rooms, in the bus, he was always full of energy, full of positivity. Uh, so, in terms of technical coaching, he was definitely up there. He had good plans for us. And I think he surrounded himself with also good coaching staff and Dick and Gary at the time. So, one thing where I felt possibly lacked, and I mean, not every coach is perfect, is in his communication. And when I speak to some of the guys now in the Springbok setup, the one thing that they'll tell you about is that Rassi is quite a very good communicator to everybody. And I felt perhaps because, I've been in many teams. Well, rather, let me say I played under quite a few coaches. And the one thing that I understand is important, which some coaches actually don't really pay much attention to, is being able to make your whole group feel important. They kind of like focus on the 1 to 22, 1 to 16, and pay a lot of attention there, but and miss out in involving the whole group, which I think that's what Rassi has managed to get in, and that's why he's able to change his team week in, week out, and everyone puts up a performance because people know when and how they're going to play. And I think possibly that, in my opinion, that's where I felt Peter was didn't do as well, because I was part of that wider group. I wasn't in his starting group week in, week out. So I felt communication with the wider group wasn't as good as it needed to be. But besides that, he was a very good coach, and I think results speaks for itself. When he was in the junior teams, even when he was with the Springboks, he achieved a lot of success, won the Lions Tour, won the Tri Nations, so speaks volumes of his coaching pedigree. So yeah, no, I think he's definitely one of the top Springbok coaches that this country has had.
So, who was your toughest opponent?
Ah, so I think, funny enough, in my days, I don't know how, the guys I played against were just massive wingers in New Zealand, Australia. Unlike today, I think I'd always prefer playing against the Cheslin Colby or playing against Ketley Arendse or Louis Bell. So these smaller guys, instead of these like 1.9, 115 kg wingers, So, and I think I played against Nandolo, which I think was a nightmare to play against because he's just a unit. And it's gonna be a difficult night, a difficult evening. But the one guy that always gave me, uh, made it hard for me was Loti Tikiri against the Waratahs and against Australia. He was always very, very, very difficult. He was a big guy, clever player, uh, hard runner. So yeah, no, he's definitely one guy that I think gave me a challenge.
And when you look around today, is there a particular player that you admire?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the ones I just mentioned now, Cheslin has to be up top because of um, first of all, how he's changed everyone's mindset in terms of like for you to be a very good rugby player, you need size and you need height, which obviously both of them he doesn't have. And it's all about is shown that it's all about the heart and what and the God-given talent that you have. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Cheslin, a guy that can create magic out of nowhere. So, you know, you do get those players that when a lot of people go to the stadium to watch because when he's got the ball, something is gonna happen. You can have two or three defenders on him, but somehow he'll still manage to find a way through. And if he doesn't score it himself, he'll set it up for someone else. So, and defensively, he's also very good. He doesn't stand back. He doesn't miss many tackles. And some people think that they can target him in the air, and he's also quite good in that as well. He wins his ball and he wins balls when we have to chase as well. So I think he's a very well-rounded player. We see him throwing in the lineouts. We see him playing at scrum half. So yeah, definitely Chesley is one of those special ones.
Is there a particularly funny moment that you can share with us from your time with the Springboks?
Funny moment. Ah, oh, um, I don't think funny moment, but I'll tell uh, I'll tell you a story where some people always talk about leaders in the group, and I think at the time at the box, I played under Victor and I played under John Smith, and the one captain that I always take my hat off to is John. Just his intelligence, very his way of being able to bring people together, understanding the diversity within the team. And John is a very cool-headed person. He hardly ever loses his cool, um, knows when to talk, and always says the right thing. And I remember we were in the hotel about to play that last test against against the British and Irish Lions. And I've had many team talks with John, and he's always like I've mentioned now, very calm, very cool, says what he has to say, doesn't have to say anything long. But that day he stood up and he took a glass that was sitting on top of a table and he threw it against the wall. And that obviously was, you could argue that it's like out of character, but he probably sensed something within the with the mood within the team that day, because obviously it was a dead rugby game. There was nothing to it. We had won the series already. But it's just ways of how he can sense and try and get people's attention back on what is needed to do. So I think that's what I would like to share about, I don't know if it's funny, but not funny, but, just the way in how he manages and handles certain situations to try and get the best out of everyone.
And what are you up to these days?
Oh, yeah. So I have got a construction business. We've been based out in Durban, been operating since I retired, so it's keeping me quite busy. And construction was something that I never thought I would get involved in. But when I finished playing, I knew I wanted to do something completely different because I just believe there's more to life than rugby. And rugby was wonderful to me. It taught me so much about teamwork, taught me so much about work ethic. being able to prioritize certain things and having being able to dedicate time, being disciplined, which is what I'm trying to apply now in the business world that I'm in. So I've got a construction business called Ndungane Constructions, which mainly focuses on civils. We do earthworks, bridges, concrete structures, and based out in Durban, like I said, but got a few projects also nationally. So yeah, no, that's what's keeping me busy at the moment.
Sounds good to me. Odwa Ndungane, let me say it was lovely having you on Front Row Rugby today. An absolute pleasure. And I hope we can have you on again in the future.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I also enjoyed it. Hopefully one day I'll come do it there in Doha. That would be nice.
Sounds good to me. I'm looking forward to it already.
Cheers, brother.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, Odwa's twin brother Akona was my guest. You can go and watch that video. It's on your screen over here. Next time, former Springbok World Cup winner from 1995, Rudolf Strowley, will be my guest.